We have a few questions in the chat. Thank you, Pamela, on motor vehicles. So UNWBI continues to be associated to motor vehicles. Do we have electric vehicles included in the catalog? So that's a very good question. As we mentioned, one of the focus we have is not to duplicate efforts and to leverage contracts that already exist. So as of today, we don't offer electric vehicles, but we are in conversation with different agencies that actually have those LTAs. The concept with electric vehicles, of course, in some of the countries we operate, it's difficult to have them. It's urban context. You need after-sale service to be available. But it is growing. We even have some countries where the legislation has improved in such a way that you just have to import electric or hybrid vehicles. We also have hybrid vehicles as a solution. So thanks, Pamela, for the question. So long story short, we are hoping to have those electric vehicles available in Q1 next year. I would like also to emphasize on armored vehicles. Armored vehicles is one of the main categories procured by the UN system. Unfortunately, given the countries we operate, they are more and more in need. And I would like to re-emphasize the fact that the UNWBI catalog offers from Euro 0 emission up to Euro 6 emission, meaning it covers the full range of geographical countries for this specific category. Hope it answered the question. We have another question about IT equipment, conference supplies, projectors. That's a good question for office use. Yes, you can contact us directly for IT equipment. What you cannot see in the catalog, you just need to send us an email and we can make it available for you. So please contact us. The IT catalog in that sense is very flexible, and it's a good example of collaboration as it is based on the shared exercise that was led by UNDP for the IT equipment. So yeah, Zamir, I see you have your hands.
Thank you, JV and Cheska. Thank you, David, for the opening. I think I just wanted to announce to colleagues, particularly those colleagues that has joined us now, that now we are at the Q&A part and the floor is open. So if you have any question that you may wish to come in directly and raise your hand, please do so, and we'll give you access so that you can bring up your question to this amazing panel today. And with that, JV, maybe we can keep this going. I will pose some of the questions for you, just in case if some of our colleagues are listening in, so that they can benefit from this as well. And I want to start with the basics, basically. So do you require a global agreement or a local agreement with a field office or with a headquarter location in order for that agency colleagues to start using WebBuy? And what is the process of using WebBuy for any colleague around the world? Over to you.
Thank you. So as mentioned briefly in the presentation, we have MOUs that are available for signature at global level. Having those MOUs signed allows to have a very clear framework of collaboration coming with a specific service level agreements with quarterly reporting on all different aspects. Having said that, to use UNWBI as a UN practitioner in the field office, you don't need to have this global agreement in place. You basically can register to UNWBI. You can use your UNGM credential, as we have a single sign-on modality with UNGM. With any UN procurement personnel with a UNGM account can click on the UNWBI page. In 2 clicks, will access the system, see all the prices available as per long-term agreements, and can browse, compare, filter, select, and create a quotation. This quotation would then become the offer made by UNOPS to the UN agencies. And the acceptance of the offer, as you know, A contract is an offer and acceptance of the offer. The acceptance of the offer will be the purchase order that will be uploaded by the colleague directly in UNWebBuy. So we have actually most of the agencies use with this modality, but again, agencies are encouraged to have this MOU signed, again, to have a stronger and more solid framework associated with service level agreements.
Thank you, JV. Maybe I can bring this to David and pose this question about UNWebBuy as a GSS, because you are providing this service to all of the UN system and encouraging collaboration for the use of UNWebBuy as one of the global shared services. So David, how does UNWebBuy Plus facilitate collaboration between the UN agencies at the country level to avoid duplication? Let's say, I mean, there is a lot of procurement initiatives that can happen at the country level as well. How would UNWebBuy help create some collaboration in that area so that we can have better efficiencies and we could avoid duplication? Over to you.
Thank you, Samir. I will be very brief. I think there is a lot of questions on the Q&A that they are substantive. I would just like to talk about the difference between a global shared service and a local shared service. There's been a change of methodology on LSS into CBO, and we know that there are among the 193 services under the CBO, there is the local procurement. There are no duplications. We talk about two different ways of procure goods and services, and depends on the environment of the procurement of these goods and services. When we talk about UNWebBuy, it's purely global shared service, and it is always a discussion, and we know that there has been a moving target on both aspects, and the same question has been raised when we talk about the UN fleet or when we talk about another global shared services. We don't duplicate the use of global shared services and the local shared services in this case on procurement. I don't know, JB, if you want to emphasize something more on the collaboration. You already said that's more of a global level. But anything you want to add on this point, this key point, actually?
Thank you, David. Yeah, I agree. This is a key point. What we have realized also with the years of experience is that you cannot necessarily serve all the colleagues in all the regions with global LTAs. This is why also UNWebBuy is looking at through a procurement strategy to regionalization of some of the contracts and potentially leveraging existing contracts in a specific country, in a specific region, to be made available just for this country and region. UNWebBuy offers this functionality where you can select what are the countries where these contracts can be made visible. We have also posted colleagues from the customer service side closer to our partner. We have a colleague in East Africa, colleague in Latin America, to be closer to our partners in order to serve them better. So yes, there can be some synergies with the CBO in that sense.
Thank you, JV. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the compliance aspect. Give us a little bit detail how the UNWebBuy works in terms of the compliance of procurement rules and regulations with agency-specific requirements. So let's say a particular agency would like to utilize the services of the UNWebBuy. They basically process an order in the UNWebBuy platform. From a compliance perspective, how do you handle this, and which agency normally is then responsible for the audit when it comes to these LTAs and contracts that you have?
Thank you, Zamir. So as I said at the beginning, the concept of UNWebBuy is based on the principle of mutual recognition. So all the LTAs that come from UNOPS went through a high standard procurement procedure that comply with the UN standards. So the compliance relies on the agency who has issued the LTA, in this case UNOPS. But if tomorrow we host LTAs from other agencies, the compliance will fall under this agency. The whole idea is that it has been pre-tendered, pre-selected, pre-procured to save time, but every LTA owner will be also we have the liabilities on the quality of the tender that he has made. But again, the material recognition perfectly tackles this point. And then you will also consider the element of compliance in terms of quality assurance, which is also another big topic, either at the selection and evaluation and award stage of the contracts, which again would rely on the agency developing the contracts. But then in the UN WebBuy workflow checkout process, we can add additional services of quality checks, quality control, pre-shipment inspections, etc. Which is another aspect of the compliance to be mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, JV. Apologies. There's a couple of questions about the cost and the subscription fee, as well as possibility of having products that is currently not in the catalog, and what would be the process for that? Do you have like a process that you basically identify the needs of agencies and expand your catalog on the basis of those? Maybe you can give the audience a little bit of information on these aspects, the cost as well as new products.
Yeah. Okay, so to access UN WebBuy and browse the catalogs, it's totally free. In 2 clicks, you can use your UNGM account, credentials, and have access to all the catalogs. UNOPS charges a cost recovery fee for the procurement handle. So it's a sliding fee where we charge a percentage amount up to a certain volume, and then a lower amount just when the order goes above 200K, sorry. So specifically, we are in the process of reviewing this fee, but so far the fee that was charged is 3.5% until 200K of value, and 2.5% above this amount. Again, we are reviewing this fee because the idea here is to be able to cost recover. So it might fluctuate during the years, but of course users are made aware, and the quotations are very transparent. You have the cost, and then you have a specific line which describes it. And also cost recover and being able to also continue investing in the platform. And the investment is also about developing new catalogs. So for that, again, we always, before having a new category, what we will do is there an agency with this specific category? And we try to reach out to them to see if there is a possible agreement on that. We have a clear mechanism for that. We have developed a memorandum of agreement with a cost recovery modality for the agency that has developed the long-term agreement. So it's a win-win situation. But we also have our own roadmap and own strategy on new categories. We are currently looking at some new solar systems, laboratory equipment, increase the health categories that we have. But an agency who has a catalog, we would be willing to publish it on UN WebBuy through this cost recovery mechanism, are of course welcome to contact us.
Thank you, JV. I can see that one of our colleagues, Gulnar Muradova, has her hand raised. Gulnar, your mic is activated and your camera as well. Please feel free to come in.
Hello, colleagues. My question is, how does the platform handle urgent or emergency procurement needs, and are these expedited processes in place? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. This is a key question when working in emergency situation. So the answer is it will depend on what contracts we put on the platform, right? Of course, if you have a contract for a certain category of goods and you are asking your vendor to maintain some pre-positioned stock, then the unit cost will be higher. To be totally frank with you, normally the products that UNWebBuy has are either available after 3 weeks or made to order. So it's not based on the contracts we currently have, is not a first phase emergency response mechanism, as we don't have ready to ship elements. We are not like WFP, UNHCR or UNICEF have a warehouse. But in the conversation we are having with UN agency, if tomorrow we start working with other system contracts from other agencies, in this case, we can have access to prepositioned stocks. So it all depends on the contracts. And then, of course, the service level in emergency will be different based on the needs. But we also had another question on the lead time. So we use stock holders for vehicles where the ready to ship date is 2 to 3 weeks after the PO placed. For IT equipment, it will be, of course, depending on the stock availability, around 1 month. But again, if we are talking about relief items that we don't currently offer on the platform, yeah, this would be based on the agreement and the contract. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Gulnar. Thank you, JV. The next question that we would like to pose to the colleagues is about transparency. Basically, is there any dashboard? Is there any reporting tool available in UNWebBuy that colleagues from different agencies can see which services is being basically utilized the most, which agencies are using the services of the WebBuy, which is also important from the aspect of the efficiency reporting, so that we can see at the end of the year and say, okay, this many entities of the UN are using WebBuy services and all, and what kind of what is the transactional volume as well as the cost volume. So do you have any kind of tools that's accessible to colleagues, to general users, basically?
Thanks for the question. Cesca, do you want to take the portion on reporting to UN agencies through the system, and then I can complement if you want.
Sure. I think for the reporting for UN agencies, JV mentioned earlier in the presentation that we have these MOUs established for UN agencies, and what we have in place with, for instance, FAO, is that we send a quarterly report where we have listed all the ongoing cases from that quarter, the volume, different statistics, and obviously the KPIs that we follow within that MOU. So in that sense, FAO would be able to see what have they procured, which cases have they what did they order, and the status of the shipments, were the shipments delivered in time and so on. So in that sense, we can provide that. We have internally we have a specific dashboard created so we can track all the UN agencies, the volumes, the commodities they bought. So in that sense, yes, we can definitely deliver some information behind that to the specific agencies that would be interested in knowing this. Over to you, JB.
Thanks, Cesca. Not much to add to this answer. Maybe that's UNOPS as a whole is using a data lake, and the UNWebBuy app is capturing a lot of data points from different elements. So we have dashboard on logistics, on products, on activity, on price trends, etc., etc. So if an agency who has signed an MOU with us has a specific need, we can always submit data requested.
Thank you, JV. Maybe we can, and thanks, Cesca, as well. Maybe we can move on to the next question. I know you mentioned about the quality assurance of the process and the goods as well, but one of the colleagues has raised the question, how do you, an agency, verify the quality of the goods they procure? So are there established basically qualitative inspection protocols or methods so that when they procure their equipment or their goods through the UN WebBuy, their quality is basically assured? And there's also a follow-up question to this about potential list of suppliers that the UN WebBuy team maintain. Is there any opportunity that such listing could be shared with the UNSDG entities users so that they could also benefit from these lists in competitive bidding process for the country offices?
Thank you. Yeah, the quality assurance is, of course, a key question, especially when you deal with medical equipment, but not only. So, of course, we have our due diligence processes at the award stage of the long-term agreements, but then specifically on transaction basis, when we in our workflow, when the user puts a product in his shopping basket, he is able to request some specific additional pre-shipment inspection so that a third-party company can inspect the products. We also, of course, offer with all the items we have on LTA warranty. So the warranty is transferred to the user. And in case there is a quality issue that has been showed or a transport issue, the focal point will be the UN WebBuy team. So you don't have to go directly to the vendor. You go to us and we handle the whole conversation on warranty, replacement, insurance claim on behalf of the users. On the question related to our list of vendors, if you browse the UN WebBuy catalog, you will see the name of the vendors if you log to the platform. All our awards are also available on UNGM. So there is all transparency in that. But you can always, if you are running a specific tender for a specific category that is not on UN WebBuy, you can reach out to us by email and we can help you identifying potential bidders for your specific tenders.
Thank you, JV. I'm sure you're using part of your day in kind of responding to some of the inquiries you get, the feedback you receive from some of the users of the UN WebBuy, and dealing with basically day-to-day challenges that you may face or the users might face while they're utilizing the UN WebBuy initiative or service. Can you maybe, I also can open this question to David as he manages the shared services of the UNOPS. What could be some of the common issues or common challenges that you face or you hear from your clients on a day-to-day basis, and what kind of feedback mechanism do you have in place so that the issues, be it on quality or on product itself or its delivery, can be handled and communicated back to the clients?
Maybe I can.
Yes, I will.
I can let you start, David.
Yes, thank you. And just to specify that the way the Global Shared Services is built in UNOPS is an internal back office. So being UN WebBuy, both, and I will go into that afterwards, a shared service for the UN system and a service provider outside the UNOPS, outside the UN system, is not part of the Global Shared Service of UNOPS. So I defer the answer to JV.
Thank you. So, Chaska, you can help me complement because as procurement practitioners would know, supply chain is never a Swiss clock. So we have a comprehensive list of potential things that can go wrong in the logistics, in many aspects. But it's the normal day-to-day work. If I were to think of one specific element, I would probably think of potentially custom clearance at destination, where all the paperwork is not necessarily ready. So we have some agile work to be coordinated with customer service from our side, the procurement official from the UN agency, the freight forwarder, the shipping lines. But this is, I think, very common to any logistic and supply chain officer.
Perfect. Thank you, JV, and thank you, David, for clarifying the aspect of the global shared services for the UNOPS. We have 4 more minutes, and I'm going to pose 2 questions, one for JV and one in case if David has any last point that he would like to share with the audience of this webinar, colleagues from the field, and what would be basically that message, David, that you will share, but you'll go next after JV. JV, in terms of like future, I mean, future-looking aspect of this platform, what do you foresee? Do you foresee any kind of expansion of the UN WebBuy beyond procurement of goods, inclusion of services, asset management, vendors performance tracking, or anything basically outside of the scope right now? And are you already looking into possibility of integrating or already considering integrating the new technology such as AI and all in provision of procurement services? And then you can hand over to David for the last points, please.
Thank you, Zamir. Yeah, one of the added value of having an in-house IT dedicated team is that when we work on agile methodology, which means that we continuously release new functionalities. For example, on the sustainable side, one of the major points we have also on our roadmap for next year is to allow our users to buy biofuel, for example. When you are working with an enterprise solution and you want to change your own workflow, it's much more difficult. And we have this flexibility that allows us to innovate and to offer new things. Good point on the services, Zamir. This is also something that we want to offer. Instead of sending goods into containers, we want to be able to offer services with a prepackaged unit of measure where instead of asking for the price of the freight, you will ask for the flight ticket or DSA cost of a technical expert at a specific daily rate. So these are the things that we are working in our pipeline. Of course, integration is key. Integrating with the main UN entities for less manual entry, being SAP based or Oracle based through APIs. We already have a punch out with other catalogs, the one of the Global Fund for AIDS, Malaria, and Tuberculosis. This is the kind of integration that we have. And AI, of course, is becoming very important. Developers actually already use it as an assistant. This is incredible, the progress that the AI has made, but we want to also embed it in our system, first for specific automation of some of the process, but also for users to increase their user experience, to propose items, as an example. In terms of performance management, as I said, we already capture a lot of data points from our suppliers, so we have an automated way of handling performance, but we believe that AI will continue helping us. And I give the floor to David to maybe answer the question and close the session, maybe. Over to you.
Thank you, JB. First of all, thank you, colleagues, for the questions were extremely good. I mean, you have this section, the UN WebBuy services, very well. I just wanted to emphasize that UN WebBuy as a global shared service is trying to champion all the enablers on client satisfaction, and we talk about the transparency, but on mutual recognition and on cost and privacy. On mutual recognition, you don't need to sign MOUs, go into long agreements. You can just go and use the tool. It's a global marketplace. Has been saying many times, it's like the UN, Amazon. Very easy. If any of you connected has not had opportunity to see the platform, please just go and see it and you will see how simple it is. And it was a very good question on fees. Besides the numbers and the figures that JB has mentioned, UN WebBuy has been providing services for more than 20 years. It's a service provision. It was a service provider. what UN What Buy has done within the UN reform and under BIC is to transition for the UN system as a global shared service. And global shared service are based on cost recovery. And that is a key goal of the services that are provided by the UN system. UN What Buy continues being a service provider outside of the UN system. Governments and organizations in the UN system, and the pricing is completely different. It is very easy to see what's the pricing, normal quotation, and you will get the description. And there is no charm, there is no success on global shared services if there is no cost efficiency, if there is not a cost on the service you're obtaining through the global shared services as if you were doing it in a different way. So that is crucial for the entire goals of UN What Buy.
Earlier today, we had a similar session in another time zone, and some questions came up around access, around rules and regulations of the procurement that will need to be basically considered. And there were questions from colleagues that what kind of quality assurance process are there? What kind of feedback mechanism is there for the UN What Buy team, as well as for its clients to reach out to them? Maybe we can start from there, JV, and you can expand a little bit. I know it's already covered as part of the video as well, that how easy it is to acquire services of the UN What Buy or place an order. Is there a need for a global agreement for such action from our colleagues in the field? Let's say somebody is joining us today from Guatemala or from Brazil. If they have a procurement need, do they have to go and have a global agreement first signed with UN What Buy and then utilize the service, or there's like an easier check, as we were mentioning? Maybe let's start from there, and then we will go with the rest of the questions.
Thank you so much, Zamir. So, as mentioned by Chaska, any UN personnel can access UN What Buy. You can use your UNGM credentials. In 2 clicks, you will have access to the system. The system access is, of course, free of charge. You can create quotation. The quotation that you would create will become the offer, official offer made by the UNOPS, and the acceptance of the offer would be the UN colleagues uploading a PO from its agency. So as such, you don't need to have a global MOU in place at central level. And we have more than 20 agencies that use this system in this way. They localize decision-making by a procurement officer that, as I was describing before, has realized that is the most cost-effective, most timely option to procure so UN What Buy. They can go directly with it as long as there is a valid PO uploaded to the system. Having said that, we encourage agencies at global level to consider signing the global MOU because, of course, it officializes the relationship. It comes with a series of service level agreement that UNOPS commits to, with quarterly reporting, specific data insights. So it's not mandatory, but it's encouraged. So that would be my answer to this question.
Thank you, JV. And maybe you can also preemptively touch base on the aspect of the procurement rules and regulations that is followed in terms of having these services available, and how can other agencies utilize this process with reference to AMR?
Exactly. Okay, so obviously the LTAs that are published on UN What Buy, in case it's UNOPS LTA, they go through a full competitive international procurement process that follow the UN procurement rules. We operate with clear due diligence processes before awarding specific vendors. More particularly on some categories such as medical equipment, we have a quality assurance policy that also need to be fulfilled to ensure that the products are fit for purpose and compliant with the highest quality standards. In addition to that, in the checkout process, a user can select and request on a transactional basis an additional pre-shipment inspection by a third party to ensure the quality of the goods. It is also important to mention that the warranty is transferred to the user, and UNOPS will take care of any problem related to potential claim related to damage in transport, any quality issues. So the users doesn't have to go to the vendor directly, but contacts UNOPS. UNOPS is the one that's taking and UN WebBuy is taking in charge all the conversation with the vendor to defend the interest of the UN entity who has procured through the platform.
Thank you, JV. Maybe in a moment we come to Anne-Claire and have her opinion about the broader aspect of the procurement collaboration at the interagency level and how utilizing services like WebBuy can enhance the collaboration at the interagency level and bring efficiencies. But before coming to Anne-Claire on this, maybe JV, since you already mentioned that you can use your UNGM credentials and access WebBuy, a colleague actually asked what's the difference between the UNGM and WebBuy. So maybe you can expand on that slightly, and then we go to Anne-Claire.
Thank you very much. This is a recurrent question, although the UN WebBuy and UNGM, which are two distinct UN-owned procurement tools, they have a very different functionalities. UNGM is, as to say, the entry point for every procurement exercise where the UN agency, including UNOPS, will publish their tenders, will have all the registration of all the vendors, among other things. We will also publish the tender notice, but also the tender awards. So this is the entry point for any UN, for any vendor to be able to do business with the UN. Once you have done what you have, the UN agency went through the UNGM, the outcome is a contract. This contract is can then be converted into a catalog, which is actually at product level with all the product data that can be put in a shopping basket, which is what UN WebBuy is. So it's the operationalization of the tenders of the contract that have been created through UNGM. So basically, UN WebBuy and UNGM are two sides of the same coin. UNGM being the entry point and UN WebBuy being the window shop.
Thank you, JV. Anne-Claire, maybe I can rephrase my question a little bit to make it simpler. As chair of the HLCM supply chain network, how do you see global shared services and platforms like UN WebBuy advancing the UN system's move toward a more harmonized and collaborative procurement model in future? And in your opinion, how would this bring efficiencies, particularly cost efficiencies for the UN system?
Yeah, I think in the current context, these are all very valid questions, right? And to give credit to the formerly known as procurement network, where credit is due, I think in the procurement space, we have done a lot around harmonization, common practices, sharing of resources. So just to give a couple of examples, we have established model policy frameworks across the UN system. We have UNGM, which is the one platform for suppliers in the UN system, which has been alive and well for a very long time and whose role and scope has only grown. So I think we shouldn't sell ourselves too short in terms of the amount of cooperation that has gone into the UN system in the procurement space. Piggybacking on each other's LTAs has been a common practice that we have probably all used significantly. Now, that being said, I think there is an opportunity, and this is part of the HLCM efficiency initiatives, but also part of the work that's being done through BIG and global shared services more generally, to look at how we optimize the use of our limited resources. Now, obviously, there are initiatives around common back office and things like this, which have probably been a little bit slow in terms of uptake, but I'm confident that there will be renewed momentum now. And we're seeing this already. I think when we talk about procurement, there is a lot which we're just also not good at reporting on. You know, I think there are a lot of joint procurement exercises done across the UN system. You know, the most recent one, which I'm sure everyone has spoken about, is the joint tender around fleet services, fleet and freight services, where we have, you know, joined forces across the system to work together with our suppliers to get the UN system the best deal possible. So I think there's a lot that's being done. Now, I think in what we're discussing here, we have an existing platform, UNGM, which has served all of us well through the years. We also have UN WebBuy, which is both a service and a technology solution. And I think there is maybe an opportunity for us as a system to see how we can better collaborate in order to avoid duplication of effort when it comes to system development. Everyone is looking at catalog solutions and how to make better use of our own LTAs, how to serve our country offices better. So for me, it's really around demonstrating that effectiveness. I think we do need to set ourselves a maybe clearer, tangible metrics around how we do measure this efficiency. So for instance, when we use UN WebBuy and UNOPS, we can clearly articulate the cost savings that are generated by using UN WebBuy as opposed to, say, a country team running their own procurement process to obtain the same services. But it's not something we do systematically across the system. And for me, if we start wanting to actively communicate about efficiency, it's really important that we start being able to have real data points around what exactly is this efficiency? How do we quantify it? Because for me, you can't make something more efficient if you can't measure what you're actually trying to make more cost effective, right? So it starts with a clear picture of what our current cost structures are and how, by using, whether it's joint tenders, whether it's sharing of LTAs, whether it's developing LTAs together, whether it's using shared e-catalog solutions, how do we tangibly demonstrate these efficiencies, not just for us internally to convince each other to use each other's services, but more importantly, to our donors, to our member states, to the people whom we serve, so that we can truly demonstrate that we are putting in place measures of effectiveness and efficiency.
Thank you, Anne-Claire, for that clarification. Jose?
Yes, so let me read the last questions that we received on the Q&A tab. The first one, the two of them are related, so let's ask them together. The first one is, what are the costs associated with the use of the platform by Freddie? And then Caroline also asked a similar question. She thanks for the presentation, but she asked about the cost recovery and how does it work. Over.
Thank you. So on the cost recovery, so UNOPS doesn't charge anything for the access of the platform to compare to see prices, but operates a sliding fee when it comes to the procurement service that are given. So we have a sliding fee from $0 to $200,000 at 3.5% and reduction to 2.5% above this amount. This is a cost recovery fee, as mentioned, so it is it has to recover our costs. We are currently reviewing it to see if it actually allows to continue running the system, running the platform, and creating new LTAs and new catalogs. On this point, I saw a question around how can colleagues give feedback on new catalogs. So again, the focus is always try to not replicate something that already exists. So we go to a sister agency to find an opportunity to collaboration. To that, we have a framework in place with a cost recovery mechanism for the agency that developed the LTA. But we also have, for every transaction, we have an automatic questionnaire that goes to the UN user to say what went good, what went bad, and what would you like to see on the platform. So we are always listening to suggestion and also our comments on how to improve.
Okay, that's a great idea. It's really good to receive the feedback from the users. I have another question posted on the Q&A that is quite interesting, and I think there is a really good response for this. Someone is asking about the SDGs. How is Web Plus collaborating towards the SDGs? But also there is a related one, which talks about green procurement and carbon tracking across UN operations. Over.
Anne-Claire, would you like to take the one on the SDGs, and I take on the...
Yeah, so I can on the SDGs. UNOPS procurement takes into account a number of environmental, social, and governance criterias. So when we set up a long-term agreement, first of all, our suppliers go through a ESG assessment, not necessarily as a way of excluding them, but also in a way of developing their capabilities. So for instance, we will even do occasionally site visits and put in place corrective action plans with our suppliers. I think JV mentioned obviously the carbon tracking system we've put in place on WebBuy itself, but we also have just endorsed the new UNOPS climate strategy, of which we have a target to reduce our scope 3 emissions by 45% in corporate procurement. So this includes all of our long-term agreements. So there are a number of, then within our sustainable procurement framework, we also have a number of criteria that we put in place when we set up LTAs that can be focused depending on what the priorities are at the project level, whether it's around gender, the use of micro and small and medium enterprises. So we have a diverse kind of approach on how we include sustainability and therefore impacting positively on the SDGs through our procurement processes. We're also very fortunate UNOPS co-chairs the HLCM Sustainable Procurement Working Group, where we've shared a number of our tools across the UN system in this space as well.
And maybe to complement on the carbon emission of our activities, to give maybe a little bit of technical details. So UN WebBuy has an API integration with a database called EcoTransit, which calculates for every transaction the cost of every shipment option taken. It allows users to make informed decisions on the greenhouse gas emission cost that this transaction or this specific shipment will have.
Thank you, JV. That's very helpful. We have been, this is asked a lot about ethical efficiency, because we are reminded that we are focused a lot on quality and cost, while we are at times not paying full attention or not reporting very well in terms of what kind of ethical efficiencies are we creating by implementing these initiatives. So having these measures and hopefully dashboards that could report on these be very helpful. Coming back to you on the WebBuy, from what we see and from what you and Chaska presented, most of the contents of the UN WebBuy is goods and products, so it's product management mostly. Is there a plan for the UN WebBuy to expand beyond the goods and products, basically, and start offering common professional and operational services that UN agencies need, like audit services, evaluations, spot checks, things that most of the agencies utilize for their programmatic implementation apart from the operational needs?
Thank you for the question, Zamir. So again, when UN WebBuy was created more than 20 years ago, it was about putting vehicles in containers and sending them to the different places in the world. We have been expanding the value proposition in terms of goods, but as a matter of fact, we have currently now in our roadmap for UN WebBuy, and thanks to our in-house IT team, we are working on tweaking or changing the checkout process. You know how the e-commerce works as a checkout process. So instead of putting a good in your shopping basket, we are working on having a unit of measure for 1 day of technical experts or pre-package specific training or any type of expert on can be need assessment on solar system, etc. And instead of requesting freight to our freight forwarder, we would be requesting travel request, DSA request. So the quotation will include the number of days of a technical expert, including the DSA and the cost of travel. So that's what we have in our plan. It's not available yet, but stay tuned because this is part of our big improvement to come.
Thank you. Thank you, JV. And maybe one last question before I hand over the session to Anne-Claire to close. A colleague asked that apparently there's a lot of UN agencies that have LTAs with competitive prices. You also mentioned at the beginning that in future there will be opportunity, or if there is already opportunity for agencies to share their LTAs and basically put forward their products through UN web buy. Maybe you can expand on that one, but also clarify if the current LTAs that are in the UN web buy or the products that are currently in the UN web buy are based on UNOPS LTAs, or there is products that's also utilizing other interagency LTAs.
So most of the catalogs or LTAs have been developed by UNOPS, but we also leverage collaborative procurement exercises, such as Anne-Claire mentioned on freight, which was led by UNICEF. So all the freight forwarders that were awarded after this process that finalized last year are using on a daily basis UN web buy. So this is leveraging a collaborative effort. Same on IT equipment. A sister agency, UNDP, worked in collaboration with other UN agencies to develop this collaborative tender on IT, and the catalog we have is based on this initiative. So we are already collaborating, we are already joining forces, but again, the idea is going forward as the current conversation on the HLCM are more into specialized agency offering their core categories of products, is to get into this type of agreements, such as the described agreement between UNHCR and UNOPS on core relief items, tents, etc., to be soon available on the platform through a cost recovery mechanism for the agency that developed the LTA.
Thank you very much, JV, for that clarification. And we're like 2 minutes to the end of the session. So we know some questions were not answered, but we, for all of these webinars, we create a written Q&A, and we'll be sharing those, including any question that may have not been answered in this call, and share that along with the recording and the presentation with the colleagues. But before we close, Anne-Claire, maybe very shortly, you could tell us what is your key message to the colleagues out there, particularly those in the field, about the future of shared procurement and supply chain, and what kind of support they can provide you as the leader of the procurement and chair of the supply chain group in the HLCM and shaping the future of the UN procurement.
I think my closing comments on that would really be, we need to work better together, and we do try to. I think at the field level is where the real impact can happen. We can push collaborative initiatives from the top. We can try and come up with frameworks and large-scale measures, but nothing beats the collaboration that can really happen by sitting jointly together in an office, identifying needs sooner. So I think it's a lot that we can do, and any procurement practitioner will know the sooner a need is identified, the better we can plan for it, and the better we can actually leverage our collective power. I think my second message is really around our suppliers are our key partners in delivery, right? We cannot deliver anything as the UN without our suppliers. And for them, dealing with multiple agencies around the same things can be a benefit, because obviously there is value in diversity, but there's also value in collaboration. And I think it's the sooner we can identify the opportunities where collaboration will ultimately deliver the best possible impact for those we serve, the better. But we also need to recognize that we all have different mandates and different objectives, and that diversity serves us well as well. In terms of the HLCM, it's really the more feedback we get from you on the ground, the better. These bodies are very high level and involve people who sometimes too easily get out of touch with the realities on the ground. So the more you can feed upwards, the more you can give us the feedback of how things actually then become operationalized in the field, the more value we can try and build for you all.